fish out. Some orange Trix. Howdy guys, Cal Kellogg here. Let's talk Northern California fishing. I haven't done a fishing report in a while, and it is time to kind of lay out the good bites, the not so good bites, the average bites, and the exciting bites. So let's get started. We're going to start up in the mountains, go through the foothills, hit the delta, and end up talking about the saltwater fishing scene here in Northern California. So, hot lakes. You know, I got to put Oroville at the top of the hot lakes simply because people are catching landlocked king salmon out there that go, 10 pounds, 8 pounds, 11 pounds, huge king salmon. Downside, there's not a lot of fish around. You're not going to have a lot of action. Start at the dam, work to the Green Bridge, find the marks, work the marks. Not a big selection of baits are needed. The Brad's baits are working well. My crippled minnow spoons are working well. Roll shad, pull hoochies, pretty standard stuff. You got to be patient. You got to put in your time. You got to grind. But if you want to catch a trophy caliber landlocked king, Oroville is the place to go. Enough said about that. It's not for everybody, but it is a very exciting bite. And if you've never caught a landlocked king, or you've never caught a big landlocked king, rest assured, they fight like tigers. They are awesome, incredible fish. For a smaller grade of kings, Folsom just keeps kicking out fish. Folsom is going strong. Start off with speedy shiners. If you have to slow down, go with the tubes and blades. Speedy shiners are probably producing 60% of the fish, while the tubes, hoochies, and blades are producing the other 40%. Work the main body, the lower ends of the arms, find the marks, grind on the marks. And, guys are catching, a few guys are catching limits. A lot of guys are getting near limits of fish that go anywhere from, say, 15 to 22 inches long. Very nice quality kings, and there are some rainbow trout mixed in as well. Bass fishing out there is very good. Topwater action's getting going. The spawn is over or nearing its end, and the catfish are starting to bite. So, there you go. Very exciting stuff. Elsewhere, Elmenor. The Elmenor Fishing Association rated the fishing as tough. The trout are big, but guys are really having to work for them. Brian Ricucci, Big Daddy's Guide Service, he's an exception to that. He always does well on Elmenor, but he knows the lake better than anybody else, and he knows how to get those fish, those big iconic rainbows and browns. It looks like we are a couple weeks away from the Hexagenia mayfly hatch. Had a couple guys tell me that the hatch had started, but I had several guys reach out to me and tell me that those guys were full of BS. So that hatch hasn't started yet. When it starts, the fishing should get really good up at Lake Elmenor. Moving on, right next door, Eagle Lake. Everybody's excited. Eagle Lake is going to open up next weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Fishing's going to kick off there. The opener, usually it's kind of mixed fishing. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But, Eagle Lake, it's full of Eagle Lake trout. Definitely worth a try. If you're only going to visit the lake once, however, I wouldn't advise going up in the spring. I'd advise going up in October or November when the fish are running really large, the weather's cool, fish are on top. But we'll see how it goes on the opener out there. A sleeper, kind of adjacent, not right next door, but adjacent, is Pyramid Lake. It's going to close soon, but it is still kicking out very nice fish. Top fish I saw this week without looking very hard online was 14 pounds. So if you want to get your licks in at Pyramid before it closes, get on over there, get out in the desert and get your fish on there. Apexes, flies, jigs, those guys are throwing everything and everything seems to be working. It's not wide open, but the fishing is very good over there. Let's wrap up the trout kind of segment of this with Lake Shasta. Shasta's fishing fair, but what's exciting over there is the trollers. They're getting a mix of rainbows, the occasional brown, and lots of kokanee that seem to be running, 14 to 15 inches, that's a totally decent sized kokanee. Those fish are big enough to rip it off the downrigger and put up a little bit of a fight. And they're going to get a lot bigger before the season ends. So that's exciting stuff at Lake Shasta. Foothill trout fishing, it's going, it's steady. Wes went over to Collins Lake yesterday and pulled the boat. He put in a little fishing time, about 2 hours, caught 5 trout. So that was cool. He had his family with him. Some exciting news coming out of Collins Lake is that those big giant red ear sunfish that they have in there are spawning. They're up shallow. You can sight fish for them. Pretty cool. Those are big panfish. They go about a pound or so. So if panfish is kind of your gig, it's definitely worth getting over there, looking around in the shallow water. You can throw jigs, you can throw flies, wax worms, red worms, crickets, you know, whatever you got. Find the fish, catch the fish. You'll have a good time. They're great to eat. They're fun to catch. And once again, those are big panfish. They go up to about a pound, maybe even bigger. So, you know, foothill fishing, it's pretty similar across the board. Comanche continues to kick out trout. Speedy shiners when they're chasing, grubs when they're not, you know, moving back to Collins, worms, troll worms, worms and blades, worms and turbos, stuff like that, mix in some flies. That's how you'll get your fish out there. The shore action is kind of starting to dwindle for guys in the foothills. The water temperatures are moving up, days are getting warmer, lake levels are getting lower, and it's kind of a trolling deal. And you can kind of apply this advice to Pardee, Amador, all those lakes. You know, they're kicking out fish. Put in your time, find the fish, start out fast and aggressive, slow down if you have to, and always have night crawlers in the boat, because that is the great equalizer when the bite is off. All right, let's hit the Delta. The Delta is still kicking out stripers, not any real big ones that I've heard of. I'm sure there's a few big ones being caught. But the trollers, if you go out and troll and you get in the right spot, you can absolutely positively take home a limit of stripers that are going to probably run 18 to 22 inches. There's a lot of small fish around, so bait fishing, not the best option right now. Trolling the Yozuris, the deep runners, that's your best bet. All the standard places, West Bank, parts of the San Joaquin. There's down runners, there's fish that, you know, live there all year. Target the smaller tides, find the fish, grind on the fish, and you can get your stripers on. Sturgeon fishing in the West Delta, if you know your stuff, if you know how to anchor in the wind, if you have the right bait, it is very, very good. I would suggest, if you want to fill a sturgeon tag and you don't really know the ropes out there, I would jump on one of the charter captains out there, Golden State Sport Fishing. They're doing great. Hayden Mullins, of Dragon Sport Fishing, he will absolutely put you on a fish. Go with a professional, you're not going to regret it. The cost of the trip is going to save you money in the long run, because you're going to learn some stuff and you're probably going to catch a sturgeon, and that's always a lot of fun. So let's leave the Delta and head to the bay. It looks like the big halibut boom in the bay that we've had for the last 3 years is kind of on the decline, and halibut bites, they kind of cycle. But I much prefer the fishing they're experiencing out there now than when it's a boom fishery, and I'll tell you why. They're catching a very nice grade of fish in the bay. They're catching a lot of 15 to 25, even 30-pound fish out there, but they're not being harassed by a bunch of shakers and a bunch of barely keepers or just sub keepers. And if you've been on one of those bites, you know what I'm talking about. Those little halibut, they will harass your bait. They're a lot of fun to catch. It's an exciting day, but they will harass your bait and pick at your anchovies, and you've got to constantly rebait, stuff like that. Well, it's more of a big fish bite right now. You're able to put in your time, and that really tickles my fancy. Keep a fresh bait on, stay on top of things, fish for 1 or 2 bites a day, and those fish are going to be 15 plus pounds, and that's a very nice California halibut in San Francisco Bay. That's one of the reasons I often prefer to fish outside the bay, on the beaches, on the bars, because the grade of fish out there tends to be better. Less fish, better grade. And you know me, I'm a big fish guy. I'll take that every time. The cool thing is that we're getting that kind of action in the bay this spring, you know, less bites, but a bigger average, some very nice fish in the mix. And there are some COVID restrictions still in force on the fleet out there. They're running lighter loads, you know, take your mask, stuff like that. California is set to raise some restrictions, so I don't know what that's going to do for the East Bay fleet at this point. One of the big positives will be if they can pack the boats with people safely. it's counterintuitive, and a lot of newbies think, man, I want to be on a charter boat that's almost empty. But the fact is, the fuller the boats are, the better they fish. Charter boat fishes better with 30 people than it does with 20, and a boat with 20 people fishes better than it does with a boat with 10 people. Will you have more tangles? Absolutely, but you've got the captain, you've got a deckhand or two, and you've got experienced guys out there. Tangles, part of the game, work through the tangles, but I can tell you, having more baits in the water, having more fish being hooked, it excites the fish, it makes the fish bite, and it is much better to be on a full charter boat than it is to be on a charter boat that's half full or a third full. I've seen it so many times over the years. Enough said about that. In addition to the halibut, there are some very nice stripers creeping around in San Francisco Bay, and some very nice white sea bass too. Joey Smith, he was driving his dad's boat around out there, him and his brother, I believe, Jonathan Smith, Captain John. Not 1,000% sure about that, but the bottom line is, Joey put a line in the water in the afternoon heading to the fuel dock, and ended up with a very nice striper and a very nice white sea bass. So we all hate Joey and want to punch him in the chest, but no, I'm kidding. He's a great kid, good guy, and a very good fisherman, as that entire Smith family. They're all great fishermen. So anyway, that's kind of a wrap for now. A lot of positives. Rockfish is coming up. There's some salmon around, that are going to be caught, midsummer, I suppose. So the numbers aren't huge, but they're out there. So whatever your preference is, there are a lot of options right now. There's a lot of good options right now. You could chase big fish, you could chase small fish, you can chase trout, landlocked kings, halibut in the bay, sturgeon in the delta. It's a great time of the year in Northern California. It's always like this. There's more options than there are days to fish. I'm Kel Kellogg. I'm out of here for now. If you like this kind of content, if you like talking fishing, we do fishing here at FHS. Hit that subscribe button, and you'll always know when I'm on here talking. You'll know when Wes is on here talking, and just kind of covering the Northern California fishing scene, trout, stripers, sturgeon, halibut, and more. I'm Kel Kellogg. I will talk to you soon, and if you're looking for gear, get on over to my store at fishhuntshoot.com. Thanks for all the support, guys. I'll catch you later.